Hello, yeah, we're down at the DJKIT showrooms in Newbury, and I'm going to be talking you through the latest additions to some of the Pioneer DJ range, which is the brand new DDJ-RZ, which has been designed to natively control the latest addition and update to Recordbox, which is Recordbox DJ. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the new update to Recordbox, which is Recordbox version 4. Now, this looks like a lot of the virtual DJing software programs that are out there. It's a performance mode and a performance version of the Recordbox software. You can see we've got like a virtual deck here and a virtual deck here with corresponding waveforms up at the top and our browser section down below. Now there's a bit of confusion since we've announced this this new update, and people kind of asking, why do we have to now pay for Recordbox? So once you update to version 4, the existing method of using Recordbox, which it's always been from the last couple of years, the last 5 years, still works in the same way. So you don't have to pay to use the export mode. This is your standard method of using Recordbox. You see the GUI's changed now and reverted back to how it always used to be. And this was designed purely to allow us to optimize, prepare and customize our music for use with hardware in the Pioneer DJ range. So the basic concept being, I can throw all my music into all my playlists down here, import it from wherever I choose to, whether that be from my iTunes collection or an external hard drive or my desktop. Wherever you store your music, you can import it into here and Recordbox will index it, and then you can export your tracks straight to a USB stick, and the files have been optimized for use on, let's say, the CDJ-2000 Nexus, for example. Then when that USB is plugged into the Nexus, you get full laptop functionality, like scrolling waveforms, quantized hot cues, perfect BPM detection, all of the stuff that you'd otherwise only get from a laptop. And I think the majority of people know about this platform the way it's stood up until now. But if you want to then switch to performance mode, you get a 30-day free trial, and you can test this out for 30 days, and then once you're done, you can then start to pay either the one-off payment of £99, or you can do a monthly subscription starting next year if you just want to use it for a couple of months. But of course, the one-off payment is probably the more desired way of going about it. But yeah, when we're in this method now, when we're in this platform, this has got a lot of the features that you'd expect to find in a virtual DJing environment, in a software program designed to allow us to DJ with. It encloses all of the features that you'd like to get, plus a whole lot more. So let's go through some of the features. Okay, so I'm going to take you through some of the panels that we can open up in the software, talk you through it on the software first of all, and then jump down onto the RZ and show you how we control it all directly from the hardware. So what you're seeing now is a stripped back view of the software. A lot of the panels are closed, and you can see we've got a large browser view at the bottom, so we can see our entire Recordbox collection down there, and then just 2 virtual decks and 1 track's loaded in the waveform slot and a blank waveform slot there. But I'm going to open up some of these panels up here and show you how these work and what features we've made available. So the first one is effects. If I click on this, of course I'm using my mouse in a minute, but you can do all this directly from the hardware also. Now, this is quite new for Pioneer because we haven't had software effects up until this date. All of our effects have been used directly from our hardware, from our DJM series mainly. So this is really exciting. Now we've gone into the software realm, we can really, it's kind of endless what you can do with software expansions and software effects. Now there's going to be additional kind of plus packs, we're calling them, inside this software. One being a DVS plus pack, which is coming later in the year. And it's kind of, like I said, endless, the amount of different plus packs we can make available, different effects expansions, different skin expansions and stuff like that. It's kind of limitless where it can go now. But one of the great things about these software effects that you're seeing here if I click the drop down menu, you can see what's actually available, is they're designed to replicate the DJM series effects. So at a basic level, we've got the standard DJM effects. You know, we've got the old legacy delay, echo, reverb, up echo, trans, pan, all the ones you'd expect to find, plus the latest ones off the DJM 900. You know, we got the spiral on there, and some new ones like multi-tap delay, and all of these can be selected directly from the hardware, like I said. But one of the really cool things about this is you've actually got a lot more control of these effects inside the software world. Now what I can actually do is switch from multi-mode into single mode, and instead of having a reverb, a slip roll and a reverse delay all having one pot to control each one, and I'm going to actually do this on the hardware, that's why it's, if you see on the screen it's moving, it's because I'm doing it on the hardware down here, and we'll jump to that in a bit more detail later. But what I can actually do is switch to single mode and have reverb with 3 parameters of control on here. So you can see I've got my large dry to wet pot, then a room size control, then a decay control, and also low cut and high cut control on there also. So it gives you a hell of a lot more depth and a lot more control when you're using these effects. We'll hear how they sound in a minute. If we jump to color effects, of course DJM series effects are famous, you know, famous for the color effects that we've made present on them since the DJM 700 and from that mixer onwards. We've incorporated 4 different color effects that can be used and controlled directly from the hardware, and I'll show you on the mixer on the hardware, but if I turn the corresponding color pot, we've actually got 6 available on here. These will manipulate our space, our jet, our filter and our pitch control, and these are available on the DDJ-RX as well as the DDJ-RZ. The next panel will be a sampler panel. Now this is something that's we're going to be familiar with, because a lot of software programs have a sampler built into them, or a sample trigger function. If I turn that on, you can see the panels just appeared down below here. Now this does work in the same way. You can preload samples into 4 banks of 8 if you want to. We've got 4 blank banks down here and then 8 slices in every bank. But we have a unique feature in this as well, which allows us to sample in real time and slice 8 segments of this audio directly into our sample pads to be triggered. So I'll demonstrate that in a moment also. And the last 2 views we've got are mixer view, so we can actually see what's going on internally. You can see the channels moving when I'm in correspondence to the software as well as the EQs. And then our record mode also. Key feature is to be able to record exactly what we're doing in the software into our hard drive, so we can record our mixes live. Okay, so we're going to come back and demonstrate these on the hardware in a minute, but before we do, I just wanted to mention this little section here. Now this is again corresponding with what's on the DDJ-RZ hardware. We've got 8 performance pads which can be used in 4 different modes. So you can see at the moment we've got hot cue illuminated on here. We can also use these as pad effects, as slicer control, and then we've got the beat jump option here. But on the hardware, what I've done is I've jumped to sampler. So if we scan down, you can see I've switched onto sampler view. Now what I was doing there when the software was changing was scanning through the different modes on here. Now I'm going to jump on and explain these first, but as this is the first real look at the hardware in general, I'll give you a brief overview. This is a beast of a controller. This is a full-scale professional setup, replica I guess. It's, you know, up until recent years, if you wanted to use a MIDI controller to DJ with, then you had to compromise a couple of things. You always had to compromise sound quality, and you always had to compromise size as well. You know, most of the controllers on the market are condensed and they're shrunk down, which has its benefits because it's a lot easier to set up and get around with, you know, very portable, but of course it doesn't feel like a full professional setup. So we designed the SZ and the RZ with the intention of being, you know, the same CDJ style sections would be the same size as a CDJ-2000 Nexus with the same size platters. So we've essentially got two CDJ-2000 Nexus style units either side of a 4-channel DJM-900 Nexus. That's what this is kind of emulating to a pretty high standard as well. We've got the 4-channel mixer in the centre with the robust P-lock fader caps that don't come off unless you actually need to do some service work inside this. So taken straight from the DJM-900 with 3-band EQ and isolator EQ. And then these 6 pots you're seeing across here are our colour effects pots control, which will allow us to manipulate our sound colour effects on here. We've also got our oscillator samples over here, oscillator effects. Anyone who's seen the DDJ-RZ prior to this unit will be familiar with these, although we've updated them to work a little bit more in tune with the software with Recordbox DJ. We've also got two high quality mic inputs on here. For wedding DJs, mobile DJs, it's essential to have high quality mic inputs, and the sound quality of this is pretty close to the DJM-900 Nexus. You know, it far supersedes a lot of the MIDI controllers out there, as this features a Wolfson digital audio converter. So the same DAC or digital audio converter as the CDJ-2000 Nexus, and as Pioneer's kind of home technology, you know, in the home AV receivers also used to feature this chip. So extremely high sound quality from this. But I guess the majority of the performance functions do really come when you're using the CDJ style sections. So let me adjust my volume and we'll get running. To load in some music, it's very straightforward. If you've ever used a Pioneer unit before, a CDJ style unit, you'll recognise this pot, or even a controller. This is our browse pot, and it's the same on every unit, and you can see when I'm turning this up on the software, we've got like a slither of the browsing section of the window showing, because we've got quite a few panels up there. But you can scan through and you can find a track, and when you've found a track, you literally just hit load on the hardware. That's loaded in for us and you're good to go. Now, one of the amazing things about this, you can see straight away, I'm on hot cue mode at the minute. Everyone knows, I'd imagine, that hot cue allows us to jump to a specific point of a track. And because I've been using Recordbox for 3-4 years, most of my tracks have got preparation already done. You know, I've checked the beat grids, they're all alright. I've also assigned hot cues to the majority of the tracks. And you can see on this track I've got a hot cue, which is green, and then hot loops, which are orange. So I've got 2 sections on this track. If we look up to the software, you can see that whereabouts they are. They're actually in the breakdown over here. So a loop, which is probably usually what I would mix out with. Now you can change the colours of these hot cues in the software also. You can, at the minute, this is like CDJ mode, hot cues. Of course we've got 8, but any hot cue will be green and any hot loop will be orange, just like the CDJ style units. You can also change these to colourful mode. So if you like to specify what colours your hot cues are, some people have their own colour codes for different kind of tracks or different kind of styles or elements, percussive elements or sounds that they're creating to use as their hot cues. You can completely tailor these as well. So let's jump into a hot cue and hot loop. And of course, with the quantize on, this will all be quantized as well. Always in time. One of the amazing things about Recordbox DJ now is we can change the quantize parameter also. So it used to be on our hardware, it would be limited to 1 beat quantized, but you can actually completely change this, I think, down to 1/8 of a beat if you want to. So it's more of a production feel and a production touch to that. Pad effects is really nice, but it ties in with our effects panels at the top. So I'm going to kind of come back to that in a moment and jump to slicer mode. When you're in slicer mode, I think this is, anyone who's seen a DDJ-RZ will be familiar with this, or the DDJ-SX. You know, this feature has been on them for a while, and what it's doing is splits up the audio into segments, and you can see at the scrolling waveform up here, the audio has been split up into 8 sections, and the current section that's playing is indicated on one of the performance pads. And what it allows you to do is simply repeat certain sections. So if I wanted to repeat Allows you to create some nice little stuttering sounds, and you can change the parameter. Nothing really revolutionary there, but very useful nonetheless. This actually ties in really well with the sampler as well. So I mentioned earlier that you can sample in real time, and you can splice segments of the audio up in real time and take them straight to the sampler. Now, how this works is this current section of the track, and I'm going to jump to a hot cue that's got a vocal and go to slicer, because this will work quite well with a vocal. While it's in slicer mode, if I hold down shift and press capture, and I'm going to do this in a minute while you're looking at the software screen so you can see what happens, these 8 sections that are currently playing will be spliced and thrown into my sampler. So let's actually do this in real time. So hold down shift, press capture, and my samples have been thrown in straight into the 8 sample triggers down here. And now if I jump to my samples on the hardware, I can actually trigger these. I've got a dedicated sample channel on the mixer, so I can actually change the volume of the samples here and apply effects and sync them if I wanted to. So you can imagine how useful that is when you're getting creative. Okay, so yeah, of course to the right of these performance pads, you've got the standard auto loop technology, or loop controls here, so you can turn off a loop up in the software. If you look up on the visual display, it's in a loop mode now. So I've got what looks like a 4-bar loop, is it? You can turn this on, string the loop, just like you could in every piece of software really, and Recordbox and Serato prior to this. But it's nice to be able to do it directly from the hardware. And that kind of takes us back to the pad effects that I touched on a minute ago. Now, this is a really intuitive and tactile way of taking control over Recordbox's effects, which you'd otherwise take control of when using Effects Bank 1 up here and Effects Bank 2. Now I'm actually going to get a loop running. 4-beat loop running there. Now I'm going to do it all from the hardware, and I'm going to shift from effects mode. At the minute I'm in single mode. So let's jump to multi-mode. So I've actually got 3 effects. I'm going to choose some different effects. Multi-tap delay, echo, and get spiral on there as well, because that's one of my favourite ones. Now, when you're in single mode, or sorry, multi-mode, it's really straightforward and easy to use. You can turn on your effects, so we'll turn on multi-tap delay, increase the dry to wet, and you can hear that delay, the multi-tap delay coming in. Then you can change your parameter on here if you want to tighten it up. Bring up a spiral at the same time. Now it's getting a bit messy. That's with an echo. Get a spiral as well. These are all echo and delay based effects, so I've got 3 delays going on here, so it's going to sound a bit messy, but if you're building it up you can hear the intensities building up. Now what we've also got is release effects. So inspired from the the RMX 1000, we've got the ability to jump out of these effects whilst using an echo. So I'm going to change that echo to half beat. Now all you got to do is press the release effects pot on the hardware, and you get an echo which will disable all of the effects, just in the same way as the RMX 1000 and the RMX 500 does. We can be building, straight back into completely dry signal. And you've got 3 release effects to choose from, just like the RMX as well: vinyl break, backspin, and echo. So if we jump to a vinyl break, you hear it stopping really tightly there, but if we jump to a solid beat, which can be used on its own, but it's a really cool and intuitive way just to exit an effect really smoothly and slickly. I'm going to shift from multi-mode to single mode because this is probably how I'd always use these effects. And I mentioned earlier how the effects can be much more in depth now that we're in the software realm, and this is part of it. If I scan to, you can see as I change the effects, all of the parameters are changing on the screen. So let's get the spiral up. So yeah, if I start to bring the spiral in, just simply with the dry to wet to start with, you can actually hear it sounds a bit different to the spiral I'm used to on the DJM100, and that's because the pitch is down. So we've actually got pitch control independent of the dry to wet. So let's start increasing that. Sounds pretty nice. And in between that, I've also got feedback control. So we're pitching it up. Let's go back down with the pitch. Bringing the feedback up. And of course, what spiral sounds great for is when you change the parameters from a half beat to a quarter beat. You hear it. So you can really hear the delays twisting up the sound. I'm actually going to use the filter on the hardware as well. So this gives you a level of depth that we haven't really had before with DJM series effects. And let's kind of take this down and get the feedback right the way up. So yeah, really unique and powerful sounding effects, and that's only with using the spiral. Of course, if you're jumping through a number of these effects, you can see on the reverb we've now got room size and decay as an additional control. If we jump to reverse delay, you've got swing and LR ratio. So there's massive control, massive amounts of control on each of these effects, just allowing you to get extremely in depth and extremely creative with them. Now, that's one way of using the effects, directly with the control up here. How I started explaining these was by coming to the pad effects. So this is a really tactile way of using them effects. I'm going to ask you to look back up at the software for a minute, because when I'm on pad effects, you can actually see the 8 performance pads are now assigned to different features. You can see we've got the top 4 pads are different percentages of dub echo. And then the bottom is echo, half a beat, spiral, half a beat, crush 50%, echo, half. And that's actually a freeze echo, what you're seeing there. But these are completely customizable. So I can go into edit and I can change each pad to be any effect that I want it to be. And it just means I've got instant control, so I can hit one of the pads on the hardware, come down, increase the dub echo, go back up, and I'm going to jump to the freeze echo, which is just below the pad I'm on now. So yeah, really nice tactile control to test out the spiral, the echo. Now of course, if we go back to the hardware, you've got shift functions for all of these pads as well. So you can use them as hot cue, effects, pad effects, slicer mode, sampler mode. But then if you hold down shift, you've got additional modes as well. You've got beat jump, you've got pad effects 2, you've got slicer loop and velocity sampler. So all your samples can be velocity sensitive now. Okay, so yeah, looking at the connectivity, one thing I didn't mention is this has 2 sound cards. So the really high quality sound card I mentioned, there's actually 2 in here, so you can connect 2 Rekordbox libraries to the controller and transfer from library to library, or go back to back, or have seamless kind of transitions from DJ to DJ. It's also got a standalone mixer, as you'd expect from a controller of this caliber. You've got phono preamps, as well as your source input paths in here for CDJs and external inputs, professional outputs as well, XLR with a secondary RCA, and balance jack booth outputs, as well as our grounding posts on here too. So that is the DDJ-RZ. Now that's going to be available as of November. You can get yourselves down to the DJKIT showrooms in Newbury, amazing showrooms which will have everything on demo for you, including the RZ. And the Recordbox software is available now. For anyone who's using Recordbox 3, please don't think you have to pay to update to Recordbox 4. The existing method of using Recordbox is completely free of charge, but then you can test out your 30-day free trial and use this software with a number of controllers in the Pioneer DJ range. And then if you like it, of course you can pay the one-off payment and you've got Recordbox DJ for life. Sweet.